Hello everybody, I'm Sage, welcoming you from the studios at Kalkine to the Executive Corner yet again. This is the Expert Talk where we have a 20-minute roundup with Mr. Tom Revy today, the Managing Director of Black Earth Minerals. Very lucky to have Mr. Tom Revy in with us today. And we bring you industry leaders, successful business owners, market and equity advocates all under one roof to help you discover the insights of the stock markets and help you understand how you can create multiple passive income streams. So in today's show, we've got Tom Revy here, Mr. Tom Revy, the Managing Director of Black Earth Minerals, who's actually just come into the news with some fantastic news about their share price surging after a recent joint venture, which we're very excited to talk to Tom about. So without any further ado, let's welcome Tom. Hello, Tom. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Thanks very much, Sage, and good morning.
Good morning. So question one. If you could, the economies across the globe have announced stimulus and financial subsidies in favour of EV and renewable power. What do you think will be the impact of such government-led initiatives on the nickel and graphite markets, especially considering your fantastic news about the announcement and the joint venture with Urbix?
Yeah, it was certainly great news that we released to the market yesterday, and it certainly had the impact that we were hoping to. It's certainly recognised as adding significant value to our overall strategy. In terms of your question, I think the world is slowly recognising that it's time for a change. And with change, we've seen lists of critical commodities come out from Europe, from the US, even recently Japan, and of course here in Australia. And certainly featuring quite prominently are the commodities of nickel and graphite. The push towards cleaner energy is certainly going to increase the demands for both nickel and graphite. Nickel has a different sort of market as well in terms of the stainless steel demand, and that's not going to slow. But graphite is, I believe, set to rule.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your insights. And congratulations again on your stock surging due to your recent news or your news yesterday. Would you like to touch upon how Black Earth is advancing two critical commodities projects at different stages of development, please?
Sure. Look, in terms of the two commodities / two fundamental projects, let's start with the simple one. It's the nickel play that we have down south here in Western Australia. It's an early exploration play, and to date we've had very positive results in terms of both the existing data, which we gleaned from historic data, which was based on work undertaken in the 60s, and also our own recently announced geochemical sampling, which highlighted nickel hotspots in and around the anticipated areas within our leases. So we're particularly pleased with that. It's not a big cash drain, it's not a big time drain. And so that provides shareholders with good upside in terms of another commodity. Our primary focus is and continues to be the Minery Graphite project in Madagascar. That's currently at bankable feasibility study, and of course we'll be progressing that through the calendar year. And of course yesterday's announcement with Urbix means that we're no longer just planning on being a simple mining company producing concentrate into the marketplace, but in actual fact we'll be producing value-added product, which will realise a much higher revenue for our shareholders and is very leveraging in terms of the global graphite space. So we're particularly pleased with that. And so two very different commodities, but also two different ends of the market in terms of development stage, and consequently time, money, effort will be placed accordingly, but certainly we can handle both of them.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that. So the third question is, what exploration leverage is enjoyed by the company owing to the presence of the Minery Graphite project in Madagascar, which you've just mentioned?
Yeah, in terms of, we've got significant upside on the project overall. Being in feasibility stage, this is this time when we're honing and maximising and optimising all aspects associated with the project. We have a planned exploration program for the Minery project over the coming months. We have, as announced previously, identified a high-grade area to the northwest of our pre-existing resource, which incidentally sits on a 40-year granted mining lease already. And that material has capability of significantly increasing the already attractive financials associated with the Minery project. So that's about a 3-week program starting in a few months' time. And we expect to get the results probably six weeks after then, simply because of the backlog in laboratories, etc. So very excited about that. So yeah, it's again another bit of news flow potentially coming in the not too distant future.
Excellent. And congratulations as well on the high grade of the graphite that your company seems to generate out of the land as well. So number 4, recently BEM signed a binding memorandum of understanding with RHI Magnesita. What synergies do BEM and RHIM plan to leverage to advance the Minery project, please?
Yeah, well, things are coming along great, as I said, in terms of the feasibility study. Critical towards that is the finalisation of what we do with our product. We mentioned earlier that we've signed the joint venture agreement with Urbix, and that's fundamentally to take our finer and small flake size material, high grade material, and convert that to a high purity set of products and place those high value products into the market. The mid sort of size material is ideally suited towards the refractory market. That's the MOU that we signed with RHI Magnesita, and that's an Austrian company. It's listed on the LSE in London, and it's got about a £2 billion market capital, £2 billion market capitalisation. So it's a global force in the refractories area. We're the first junior miner that they've actually signed such an agreement with. And the agreement basically allows for us to supply any one of their refractory projects around the world, in Europe, in China, in Brazil, etc. So it's an important contract for us. And as we go along, we'll be putting more detail around that and releasing it to the market as well.
Excellent. Sounds exciting. And just for our viewers at home, BEM is the ASX ticker code for Black Earth Minerals as well, just so you are able to note that down. So the 5th question, can you shed light upon other exciting market opportunities awaiting high-grade Minery graphite, please? Yeah,
look, as I said, we now enter the realms of value adding, and with the Urbix joint venture, we'll be looking at things such as SPG, which is spheronized purified graphite, which is a critical component that goes into making the anodes for lithium-ion batteries. And currently 100% of SPG is made in China. So we will be providing the market with a geographic alternative in terms of market supply. So that's exciting. But the plant can also produce products such as graphene, and there's a myriad of uses for graphene moving forward. In terms of our coarse product, we're currently looking at the opportunities in regards to how we can produce a value-added product for our coarse material, which already attracts a very high premium over fine material in the order of magnitude of 3 times or 4 times. But we're going to take that further. And those sort of products that can be produced are things such as expandable graphite, which is used, for example, in the fire retardant industry, which is a significant growth industry for us all around the world. And also things such as graphite foil, which is used for basically dissipating heat in electronic devices such as laptops, mobile phones and the like. So growing industry, and the beauty there is that the world is, whilst it's looking to increase graphite production, the actual global tonnage being produced of coarse material, which represents 50% of our product, is actually decreasing globally in terms of production whilst demand is increasing. So it puts us in a great position.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see with the joint venture where your plant will be developed, either in Madagascar or WA. Very keen to find out which way it goes there. Question 6, please. The Donnelly River project presents a significant nickel, copper, platinum group metals. What is BEM's development strategy for Donnelly River, please?
Yeah, look, we believe it or not, and I make no secret about it, we originally obtained those tenements because of their graphite potential, because they adjoined 2 historic graphite mines. But upon early exploration and investigation around the area, we actually came up with the right rocks for potentially base metals. Historically, we went through and reviewed the data that was available to us based on historic works undertaken in the 60s and 70s by global companies looking for elephants, effectively. And we joined the dots and came up with a number of target areas, 11 target areas to be exact, late last year. And then we undertook geochemical sampling, which just basically means surface sampling in the right areas, looking for trace elements, looking for the right type of rocks as well. And we ticked that box. We made that announcement recently about finding ultramafic rocks, which to the non-technical people is associated with a lot of the nickel sulfide plays here in Western Australia. So that's a big positive for us. And also we came back with high levels of nickel at surface of up to 800 ppm, which it may sound low, but in geological terms from surface is a very encouraging sign. Moving forward, we've made the announcement that we'll be talking to landowners, and our aim now is to fly some VTEM, effectively do some aerial magnetics in the area, and then overlay those sample assays which we've received against those magnetic anomalies. And by March, basically identify drill-ready targets ready for drilling to see what lies beneath the earth.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like you know exactly what needs to be done to get the product out to the businesses who need it for production and manufacturing. The seventh question is the highly encouraging assay results, which you've just touched on, and their association with the mafic, ultramafic material is recently witnessed while the company is at a very early exploration stage at Donnelly River. Although you've just briefly spoken about it before, would you mind commenting about it in more detail?
Sure. When you look at projects, the nickel sulfide projects such as the Mount Keith operation in the Eastern Goldfields, whether you look at the projects in the Fraser Range, they tend to have similar rocks, and those rocks are mafic, ultramafic rocks. You can find nickel when you do geochemical sampling around the place just as background generally, but when you have elevated levels of nickel and copper, and there you also find the right rocks, and as you say at this stage, it's the mafic, ultramafic rocks in the area. It tends to put a target in and around those areas. It's a nice signature to have because it correlates nicely with other successful nickel sulfide discoveries. So we've identified from that a number of areas on the property, and they're certainly the focus of our exploration activities moving forward.
Excellent. So number 8 on our list, please. Would you like to touch upon the short to mid-term plans of Black Earth Minerals and how well these are aligned with the long-term vision of your company too?
Over the short term, if we talk about 3 to 4 months, we'll be, as I said, in terms of starting with Donnelly River, we'll be undertaking that aerial magnetic survey and then potentially identify drill-ready targets on the Donnelly River prospects down south. And so there'll obviously be information flow and news flow in terms of that. In terms of next stages of the bankable feasibility study, we plan to undertake the pilot work in a laboratory called BGRIM, and we already have the material there, 60 tonnes. We're just waiting for a suitable time slot to put that material through. And that's going to be critical for the bankable feasibility study, the BFS, in terms of finalising in technical talk design, process design criteria, which is pivotal towards the engineering requirements and ultimately determining the final capital and operating cost figures. So it's important from that point of view. And it's also going to generate something like 5 tonne of concentrate, which we'll use to finalise the legally binding offtake arrangements with parties that we're currently speaking with. So that's an important piece moving forward over the next sort of 4 to 6 months. And of course, news flow will emanate from there. We'll obviously talk about the latest in terms of Urbix as we put more detail around that on a joint venture agreement. And we'll also be moving towards other value-adding steps in terms of the course and material. So it's going to be a busy 3 to 4 months and 12 months while we complete all of that. And obviously there's lots of news flow to emanate out of all of those works.
Absolutely. It's interesting to see the shift moving away from China dominating so much of the production of this into Europe and America as well, with the new Biden administration's push for eco-friendly future. So number 9 on our list, how is BLACKEARTH placed among other mineral exploration and development companies to create shareholder value, please?
If you look at our company, if an investor wishes to have exposure to critical commodities, then we're a very attractive company. Even though we went up yesterday, we still represent a very inexpensive entry into what is a company that has a project in the BFS stage, being the Minera Graphite project. It has an asset here in Australia at early exploration stage, so they have nickel exposure. And of course, we're talking about the value-adding side of things with the Urbix agreement and so on. So we're actually providing current and future investors the opportunity to get true exposure to critical commodities, and to not just have that exposure to a simple miner, but by us entering into the value-adding stage, they have exposure into a miner/industrial company in the technology sector, and we'll be doing that in a sustainable and responsible manner. And of course, that's becoming more and more important these days. So I think we are well placed on the growth curve for shareholders to realise that upturn in value as we continue to both develop and explore our assets. And the future certainly looks very, very bright for particularly graphite over the coming years, when the experts are calling for a deficit in terms of supply and an inability to meet demand by about 2023 to 2026. So an exciting time, exciting company, right people, right assets.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And we've reached our final question. So any final thoughts you would like to share with our esteemed audience here at Kalkine, please, Tom?
Sure. As I said, we're a company that's relatively new. We listed in 2018. We put our first drill hole down in March 2018, and we're halfway through a BFS, which is a good sign and demonstrates the company's commitment towards its original pledge of fast-tracking assets to cash flow. It's always been our aim. As I said earlier, the emphasis is now not just on producing concentrate and being just another miner, but it's also entering into the value-adding stage, where we'll realise multiple numbers higher than current anticipated revenue. So instead of getting $500 a tonne for fine material, we have the opportunity to realise $2,500 a tonne for a value-added product for the lithium-ion battery market. Similarly, in the coarse material, instead of realising $1,100 a tonne, we can attain numbers up to $9,000. So it is a pivotal moment in terms of the company's development stage. And yesterday's announcement was a very important strategic announcement for us, and by no means is the end of it in terms of us announcing positive results moving forward on all our assets and all our aims moving forward.
Exactly. And I'm so excited to talk to you right on the back of that announcement as well. So viewers, we've been very lucky to listen to Tom today, Tom Revy, the Managing Director of BLACKEARTH Minerals, giving us some insight on his upcoming projects. And best of luck with your projects too, Tom. I hope the MOU over the next 180 days, as you say, or next 12 months goes really, really well. But that is the end of our fabulous show. It was lovely talking to you, Tom, and thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Sage, and certainly very enjoyable talking with you today.
Thank you. So with that, I'm Sage, and I'll sign off today from the Kalkine studios. Please watch this space for more. Until then, stay apprised and invest wise with Kalkine.